what is up guys? Welcome to the Day 40 recap of the 2016-2017 NBA season. Alright, LeBron James said it himself. The honeymoon phase for this team is over. See, what's happening with the Cleveland Cavaliers, as you may not know, they have lost their last 3 games. They lost to the Bucks, they lost to the Clippers, and now they have lost to the Bulls. So basically what's going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers right now is this. You know how in a game, when your team is up big on another team, your team starts to relax a bit, and then the other team starts to get back into the game. That's basically what's happening right now. For the Cavs, everyone's expecting them to win the Eastern Conference, to make it to the NBA Finals, and before the last 3 games, they were looking like they were going to do that easily. And I think it was coming too easy for the Cavs, so they started to relax a bit, and now they're starting to rack up a few L's. But they're gonna wake up, there's no need to worry about that. It's not a time to panic in Cleveland. But you know who stays woke? Jimmy freaking Butler. Jimmy freaking Butler has snuck himself into the MVP conversation. Right now, the Bulls are 3rd in the East, and I don't think it's saying too much to say that they can finish in the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. They could even give the Raptors a run for their money for the 2nd seed if they continue playing this well. But that being said, Jimmy Butler taking the Bulls to the 3rd seed would be enough in my mind to warrant him being in the MVP conversation. Would he win it? It's still too early to tell, but right now he is most definitely in the conversation. Last night he was phenomenal, yo. He had 26 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Absolutely phenomenal. But the whole Bulls team, well, actually not the whole team, but Rajon Rondo, Dwayne Wade, Taj Gibson, and Jimmy Butler played phenomenal. Rajon Rondo had his best game with the Bulls last night. Yo, he had a triple-double with 15 points, 11 rebounds, 12 assists, and also 3 steals. And then Dwayne Wade looked like Dwayne Wade. I mean, he was fired up for this game. You could tell. He wanted to show off his new squad to LeBron James, and he was fired up. He had 24 points, and then 4 assists, and a couple of steals as well. That's like the big 3 for Chicago. You already know what you're gonna get from Dwayne Wade. If Rondo is having a good night, then he can play amazingly. And then Jimmy Butler's elevated his game to an MVP level. Like I said, a lot of people said the Bulls were going to suck going into the season. You guys think I'm excited for a team for nothing? When I say I'm excited about a team, you think I'm excited for them to finish outside of the playoffs or barely escape in? No, that's not what I mean. I'm excited for this Bulls team because I knew they were gonna be fired. Speaking of fire though, let's talk about Kyle Lowry and the Toronto Raptors. Yo, they've been on fire after that rough stretch they had a couple weeks ago. Especially Kyle Lowry, the man has been lighting it up from 3. Last game, he was 6 of 9, and I think he finished with 24 points. He had 24 points and 7 assists last night, 6 of 9 from 3. He has been lighting it up from 3. To start the season, he was ice cold, but now he's caught fire. And then you look at DeMar DeRozan, he had 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. He didn't shoot the ball really well, only 33% from the field, 6 of 18. But the thing with DeMar DeRozan is, to start the season, he was carrying the Toronto Raptors because Kyle Lowry was having a bunch of off nights. You know, Kyle Lowry couldn't see the bottom of the rim. No one else on the Toronto Raptors could really make shots. So DeMar DeRozan went into this mode where he was like, if no one else is going to do anything offensively, I got us. But now the rest of the Toronto Raptors have started to come alive, so DeMar DeRozan can kick back a little bit. Do I still think he could go out there and average like 35 points per game if he wanted to? Of course he could. Of course, you remember last game, I think he had like 20-some points, but he only shot like 9 times. So DeMar DeRozan is now doing more facilitating. He's becoming a better playmaker. He's focusing more on playmaking. He's still going to get his offense when they need it. And DeMar DeRozan is playing more of an all-around game now. So he's still having a really good season, even if you don't see him putting up these crazy scoring numbers like he was used to. He's still more efficient than ever, and he's still DeMar DeRozan. Speaking of really good teams, my Pistons are becoming one. Well, they already were one, but now they're looking like it, even without Reggie Jackson, who will be back either I think it's like Sunday or so within the next couple of days. Reggie Jackson will return within the next couple of days, and I am excited. But they didn't need him yesterday, yo. They went out and smashed the Atlanta Hawks, yo. 121-85. Absolute annihilation. Like I said, it's always a balanced team effort with this Pistons team minus Reggie Jackson. It's always a balanced team effort. The same thing goes for yesterday. Actually, it was like by quarter. You know, the first quarter, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope went off. He had 15 points, I believe it was, in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, Andre Drummond went off. In the first half, Marcus Morris didn't score at all. And then in the third quarter, he came out and he went off. And then in the fourth quarter, it was like Tobias Harris and a little bit of the bench. For every quarter, someone was going off on someone. And unfortunately for the Hawks, it was just manslaughter from like the tip-off. They are now above 500, 21 games into the season without Reggie Jackson, without their leader, without arguably their best player. So that's very impressive. So Manu Ginobili came out and said the Spurs aren't playing well after their win last night over the Washington Wizards. And he's right. The Spurs really aren't playing well. Yes, they are winning. They are pulling out wins. They pulled out a win over the Washington Wizards off a Kawhi Leonard clutch moment last night. But that being said, they're still not playing well. Why? Because they're almost losing to teams that they have no business losing to. Games against the Washington Wizards shouldn't be close. The game against Dallas a few nights ago was kind of close. They lost to the Orlando Magic. So the Spurs are winning, but they're not playing well. Kawhi Leonard last night had another good game. He had 23 points. LaMarcus Aldridge and Paul Gasol had pretty good games. Paul Gasol hasn't looked that good for the Spurs as people thought he was going into the season. He's been alright. Him and LaMarcus Aldridge haven't really been able to coexist much on the same team, but then again, maybe they just need to learn to play with each other because LaMarcus Aldridge never shares the court with another big, well, I guess you could say Tim Duncan, but at the same time, Tim Duncan was up there in age, so he wasn't as I don't know what to say, but LaMarcus Aldridge has never had to share the court with someone like Paul Gasol before. Paul Gasol has really never had to share the court with someone like LaMarcus Aldridge before. So the Spurs are getting some wins. Are they the prettiest wins? No, they're most definitely not the prettiest wins. They're edging out these teams that they should be going out and blowing out. They need to find a point guard. They need to find a way to get the best out of Gasol and Aldridge every single night. And yeah, then they'd be fine. The Knicks are now 4-0 when Joakim Noah doesn't play. Carmelo Anthony was having a field day from 3 last night, especially in that second quarter. I think he hit like 3 threes in the second quarter. The last few games were a bit rough for Carmelo Anthony shooting wise from the field, but he finished with 29 points last night. So his best game since that game against what was it, Charlotte? Kyle O'Quinn was freaking flames last night, yo. The man looked unstoppable for some reason. Kyle O'Quinn went off on Minnesota. And then Derrick Rose also had a pretty good game, yo. He had 24 points. Brandon Jennings was coming in doing his thing off the bench. He likes to make those flashy plays. He finished with 8 assists, so that's what you're gonna get from Brandon Jennings. Like I said, he's not a scorer anymore. He looks to be more of a playmaker. For Minnesota, this was a team that looked like they really wanted to win. This was a team that looked desperate for a win, but just couldn't get the win, especially at the end. Like, if you were watching that game, you saw how Minnesota was playing at the end. They were playing super desperate, and it was working for them. They were down basically like in the 10 range the entire game. They were always down 10, 8, 11, 12, and then they got the lead for a brief moment. They got the lead and it's tied the game up for a brief moment, and then the Knicks started to go up like 6, and then Minnesota would get it down to like 3-2, then go up back to 6 again, and it finally finished at 4. But up until the dying seconds, Minnesota was fighting for that win, which is good. I mean, you want to see that, but at the same time, you want to see this team win. They're 5-14 now. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 5-14. And this is supposed to be the year that they take a step forward because they have too much talent on that team not to. I mean, you can't talk about Zach LaVine, Karl Anthony Towns, and Andrew Wiggins and then just say, oh, well, the Minnesota Timberwolves need more talent from the draft. They need another high draft pick because they shouldn't. No team should need more talent. You already have 3 All-Stars, 2 of which I feel like could be superstars, and even Zach LaVine has the potential to elevate his game to a superstar status. But they have so much freaking talent. They don't know how to win, and that's just the truth. I mean, they just don't know how to win. I mean, they're taking L's like no other. They're taking so many different types of L's that people didn't think existed, types of L's that have not been discovered yet. Minnesota is finding a way to discover those type of L's to take. I just want to see this team start winning eventually. Of course, the Pelicans took another L, yo. The Clippers went out, beat them 114-96. At first, the Pelicans were putting up a pretty nice fight. Mainly for the first 2 quarters, the Pelicans were up. They were putting up a nice fight, and then the Clippers woke up and they basically put the Pelicans to rest. I could sit here all day and talk about all the defensive breakdowns the Pelicans had, all the offensive breakdowns the Pelicans had, but the truth is the Pelicans are just a bad team. Anthony Davis, one of the best players in the NBA, didn't have an amazing game last night, but he still had a solid game with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. A solid game for Anthony Davis. Just looking at this Pelicans roster, and they don't have anything. I mean, their lottery pick Buddy Hield didn't get into the game until trash minutes. Jrue Holiday can still be a nice point guard. Other than that, you have a bunch of at best bench players, and then some players who are basically D-League players playing out there for the New Orleans Pelicans. You can't expect too many W's with that team. And then for the Clippers, Blake Griffin had an amazing game. Chris Paul did his thing. It's just the Clippers. I mean, how many times do I have to talk about the Clippers? The Clippers are the Clippers. They are bouncing back from that rough stretch they had where people were saying, oh, basically same old Clippers or whatever. But every team goes through a rough patch. The Cavs are going through one now. Every team goes through a rough patch like this, and the Clippers are bouncing back. The Houston Rockets got to win even when James Harden didn't have the best of nights. Yo, James Harden looked human. He had 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. That's a pretty human stat line compared to what he's been doing. For the Rockets, it was a team effort. That's the one thing, like when comparing the Rockets to the Thunder, is that when Russell Westbrook has an off night, it's less likely that the Thunder will win because the Rockets have a better team than the Thunder. You know, you have guys like Eric Gordon who can be flames. You have guys like Trevor Ariza can even be flames. You have guys like Ryan Anderson who can set flames. You know, you have a lot of people on that team who are capable of setting flames. Last night, all of them chipped in a little bit to get the Rockets that win. So yeah, the Houston Rockets are better than just James Harden. It's not just the James Harden show. He's the main part of it, but they do have some other talent on that team. And we all know when it comes to talent, the Boston Celtics do not have a lack of it. Talent and assets is one thing the Boston Celtics most definitely do not lack. They went out and beat the Sacramento Kings last night, 97-92. And Al Horford had an amazing game. Absolutely amazing game. Yo, 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 blocks. Yo, Al Horford, since coming back from his concussion, that concussion must have knocked something loose in his brain where he's like, yo, I feel like I'm the Dikembe Mutombo out here, because he's been blocking shots left and right. Isaiah Thomas still isn't shooting the ball well. I think he has like a sprained finger or something, and it's definitely affecting his shooting. He had 20 points last night, but it was on 6 of 21 shooting, so definitely not an efficient night for Isaiah Thomas. And then Avery Bradley continues to shine, yo, 15 points and 9 rebounds. He is still rebounding the ball like he's never rebounded the ball before. And then for Sacramento, DeMarcus Cousins had 28 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks, so a good game for DeMarcus Cousins. And you know, the Sacramento Kings, for being as bad as they are, they do compete in all of their games. It's not like they go out and get blown out every single night. It's just they compete and then they fall short. They compete and then they fall short. This is what they've been for the past few years, so you're just used to it. Last but least, the Orlando Magic blew out the Philadelphia 76ers 105-88. Joel Embiid did have a double-double, did have a really good game, 25 points, 10 rebounds in 26 minutes. You know, a good game for him and from no one else on the Philadelphia squad. And for Orlando, Aaron Gordon had his best game of the season. He had 20 points. Serge Ibaka had another pretty good game. He had 16 points. And it's just the Orlando Magic still have to decide what they want to do with their franchise. The Philadelphia 76ers, of course, for this Philadelphia 76ers, you need Ben Simmons to come back to see what he can do in combination with Joel Embiid. And then apparently Nerlens Noel have asked for a trade when he's healthy, so he's going to be out, and so let's see what they get back for him. Then you have to see what they're going to do with Jahlil Okafor too. I have a feeling Okafor is going to wind up getting traded as well. But that about wraps it up for all the action on day 40 of the 2016-2017 NBA season. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to smack that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this every single day. You guys already know I'll be right back here tomorrow recapping the action from tonight. So until then, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!